Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us today because we're going to dive into a totally fascinating shift in how we actually live our lives. You know that one person who literally never posts anything? Maybe it's your best friend, or hey, maybe it's you. While everyone else is scrambling to document their vacation from like 5 different angles, they're just chilling, enjoying the trip. And while society kind of makes us feel like they're missing out, recent psychological research suggests there's a massive chance they've actually figured out something the rest of us haven't. So today, we're unpacking the hidden power of not posting. Let's think about this for a second. When was the last time you actually posted on social media? Okay, now compare that to the last time you thought about posting but didn't. You know the feeling. You took the perfect photo, you opened up the app, and then you just stopped. That gap, that tiny micro moment of hesitation right before hitting share, actually tells us everything we need to know about modern psychology. Because somewhere between opening your camera and putting it out there for the world, your brain totally kicks into overdrive.
Okay, let's dive into section 1, the hesitation.
So what exactly is going on in our minds during that split second? Well, to figure this out, we got to look at a brilliant sociologist named Erving Goffman. Way back before smartphones were even a thing, he talked about how we all wear different masks to control how other people see us. It's just human nature, right? But here's the absolute game changer. Social media didn't invent these masks. It just took them and put them on a permanent stage in front of a billion-person audience. One bad caption or a super awkward photo isn't just a fleeting moment anymore. It's permanent. Literally anyone can scroll back and judge it. So your brain starts doing this incredibly fast mental math. Are people going to like this? Does this make me look good enough? Is my life actually interesting enough to get validation from hundreds of followers I haven't spoken to in years?
Which brings us to section 2, the psychology of lurkers.
Studies show that roughly 30 to 40%, let's call it around 35%, of social media users are what researchers call lurkers. Now, I know that word sounds a little bit creepy, right? Like someone just hiding in the digital shadows. But really, these are simply people who scroll but never share. They skip the whole performance completely. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why so many people choose to sit in the audience rather than get up on stage.
A totally fascinating study published in Frontiers in Psychology actually found the answer. And it all boils down to this specific anxiety loop. When you mix the intense pressure to post with a deep fear of being judged, something inside us kind of just breaks. The study revealed that constantly comparing yourself to others, combined with totally valid worries about privacy and this heavy outside pressure to perform, creates profound exhaustion and anxiety. So translation, these people aren't weird at all. Their brains are literally just trying to protect them. They've realized with the whole comparison game, watching everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel while you're just sitting there in your Tuesday afternoon reality is essentially poison.
Moving right along, section 3, validation versus control.
So now we're shifting gears from the fear of posting to something way more empowering. Let's look at this incredibly important concept called self-determination theory. In the world of psychology, this theory states that humans do their absolute best when they feel totally in control of their own choices, completely free from outside pressure. Now, think about social media for just a second. It's the exact opposite of this theory, isn't it? It's basically a massive validation machine where your self-worth is literally quantified by likes, views, and reactions. People who avoid posting, they're protecting their sense of autonomy. They are flat out refusing to hand over their self-esteem to some random algorithm. I absolutely love this quote right here because it hits the nail on the head. My confidence doesn't need to come from strangers on the internet. Research consistently points out that highly secure individuals just do not feel the need to broadcast their lives. Their self-esteem is absolutely not tied to the comment section. They might still scroll because, hey, they like seeing updates, but they stay quiet because they fiercely value their boundaries. Seriously, think about the non-posters in your own life for a minute. When you see them in person, are they miserable? Usually, no way. They're doing just fine, mostly because they're actually living their life instead of just filming it.
Now let's jump into section 4, the attention loophole.
Okay, here's what's so incredibly intriguing and frankly, kind of scary. Psychologists have found that even when you consciously know social media is fake, your brain still totally falls for it. Just scrolling, without ever even posting, makes you automatically compare yourself to others. You see a staged promotion or a perfectly lit engagement ring, maybe a spotless new house, and even though you know for a fact it took them 20 takes to get that perfect photo, the damage is already done. Your subconscious simply doesn't care if it's real life or perform life. It just looks at it and screams, they have more than me. People who step back from posting often recognize this rigged game and just refuse to play.
And this actually leads us to a really fascinating behavioral loophole. Have you ever noticed how many people will watch YouTube religiously but won't even touch Instagram or TikTok? Like, they will happily binge watch a 3-hour video essay but scroll right past a photo dump. Why is that? Well, because YouTube offers passive consumption and learning without demanding a performance from you. Literally, no one is tracking if you like the video, and no one is wondering why you haven't posted a life update in 3 months. Instagram and TikTok, on the other hand, demand performance. They create social anxiety. Non-posters have essentially found the ultimate loophole here. All of the entertainment with absolutely none of the anxiety.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, the power of privacy. So what are these non-posters actually gaining from all this? Well, people who avoid social media might technically have fewer friends on paper, but they tend to cultivate much, much deeper relationships. They would way rather have 5 friends who actually know what's going on in their lives than 1,000 random people who like to picture. And the research absolutely backs this up for sure. Quality friendships consistently predict happiness way, way better than a massive quantity of shallow connections. 10 real, genuine conversations will always beat 1,000 passive reactions.
So the crucial point is how psychologists actually identify 2 totally different types of self-awareness. First, you have public self-consciousness, which is constantly worrying about how other people see you. It's always asking, how will this look? Then you have private self-consciousness, which is thinking about your own internal thoughts, feelings, and core values. It asks, how does this feel? Non-posters lean heavily into private self-consciousness. They aren't checked out at all. They're actually paying much closer attention to reality.
We can honestly call this their quiet superpower. Because they aren't constantly trying to manage this public image, they develop incredibly high emotional intelligence. They actually have the mental space for genuine self-reflection. Plus, they're highly observant. They're the ones who notice that slight change in someone's posting frequency or that carefully constructed story that just seems a tiny bit off. Ultimately, they build an identity that simply doesn't require an audience to exist. And here's what society completely misses. Choosing not to post is not the same thing as hiding. It's actually an act of power. It's a bold declaration. It's standing up and saying, my private life is valuable enough that it doesn't need to be consumed by everybody else in order to be real.
Just think about how certain experiences actually get worse when you try to perform them for the internet. That stunning sunset, it's genuinely more beautiful when you aren't fighting with your phone's camera settings to capture it. A deep conversation with a friend is far more meaningful when you aren't in the back of your head mentally drafting a clever caption for it. And that massive personal achievement, it's often so much more satisfying when it is just yours, completely untouched by the validation of random acquaintances.
But here's the grand paradox of this whole shebang. The exact traits that make people avoid social media, things like control, self-reflection, and security, are exactly the things social media promised to give us in the very first place: connection and community. But instead of giving us that, it created this massive performance economy where being real is incredibly rare, and simply being silent is somehow considered weird. The people who opt out are just completely rejecting the terms of this performance. They're basically saying, look, I'll connect, but on my terms, in real time, without putting on a whole show.
So I'm going to leave you with this really provocative thought to chew on. What if the people who don't use social media aren't the ones missing out? What if they're actually the ones who figured it out first? Choosing privacy over posts, choosing depth over followers, and choosing being present over performing isn't antisocial at all. It might honestly be the ultimate form of self-respect. Because at the end of the day, literally nobody on their deathbed ever wishes they had posted more, but plenty of people wish they had lived more. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you see the quiet ones, and hey, maybe even your own scrolling habits in a completely new light.